So by 2000, WWF is having its biggest year. Things couldn't be going better. WCW is now a distant number two in the ratings. And then Vince decides to start a football league. So after the failed bodybuilding federation and the failed vitamin line anyway, so he starts the football league. Do you feel like him starting to put so much of his energy into the XFL was the beginning of why things started to go down?
Well, anytime you can take the genius's focus off the project, you're you could be in line for some missteps. Lawler and I were the two guys that were used to audition the other announcers, the real football announcers. And Dick Ebersole was the head of NBC Sports and the Olympics. He's a major player. Uh, as I got the story, he said to Vince, the best team that we have is JR and Lawler. And so we got to call not the main game, but kind of a C game, whatever. And I made $1,500 a game. And ain't a lot of money. So that's what I made, 1,500 bucks. And I was happy to get it because I love football. I'd have done it for nothing. I didn't say that too loud. It goes against my principles of getting paid. So I think it took Vince's eye off the ball too much. You can only focus on so many things. You can only bounce so many balls up in the air. You're going to drop one.
And around that time, because Steve Austin had to leave at the end of '99 to have the neck surgery, so he's out for most of 2000. And then Steve comes back, and the big storyline is who ran over Stone Cold. That's the big storyline when he comes back, and it ended up being Rikishi, who was a very popular babyface, and it kind of killed Rikishi as a character. When this is all happening, are you kind of going, why are we making Rikishi the driver? Like, what's
Yeah, but here's the thing. Rikishi or Rodney, uh, or what is his real name? Uh, Everybody loved him. He was jovial and happy and jolly, and he paid his dues. He hung around and all that stuff. So nobody wanted to see Rodney or not Rodney, but Fatu get shortchanged. So nobody really spoke up. But we didn't have a lot of other great choices, quite frankly. And so we went with that. It never worked, but it seemed like the thing to do at the time.
do you think if that had been somebody else, if the driver thing had been somebody else and it had worked out better,
Yeah,
do you think that would have stopped Steve Austin from being so adamant in turning heel?
maybe we didn't have anybody in that slot.
And how do you remember first hearing about Steve wanting to turn heel? What are the
Uh,
conversations?
he talked about wanting to be a heel from day one. No matter how much money he made, no matter how much merch he sold, he wanted to be a heel. Just that's what the boys do. It's more fun to be a heel in their vernacular. So, uh, and Steve wanted to be a heel, but he was a kind of a good guy heel. He wasn't really a heel. He was a character babyface, and he just didn't. It never was never going to pan out. But here's the thing: I asked Vince one day. I said, "Why are we doing this? Making Steve a goddamn heel? Nobody's going to believe it." You know, I use this analogy. I said it's much like making John Wayne a Nazi or an evil soldier or a traitor or something like that. It just ain't going to fly. And I believe that. But Vince's answer to me was, well, here's the deal, JR. He wants to try it, and I'm not going to stop him. So instead of trying to talk him out of it and and reason with Steve about being a heel, you're John Wayne. This ain't gonna work. But because you want to do it and you've sacrificed yourself so many times over and over, Vince is going to acquiesce and let you do it. That's basically how it worked out. And as you saw during that evolution, Steve was kind of a character heel. He made you laugh. He was singing. He was wearing little hats, playing a ukulele or something. That ain't a heel. Heels don't do things to ingratiate themselves to their target audience. Does that make any sense to you guys? And that's what he was doing. So, but that's the loyalty that Vince had for Austin.
But when he turned at WrestleMania 17, Rock was leaving to go and do a movie, so he was going to be gone, and it felt like there wasn't really a big babyface to go up against Steve. And there's kind of rumors that Triple H was supposed to turn and become a babyface, and that would be the foil. Is that true? Was that the idea, or
we kicked it around that Triple H would be a great babyface now, but he didn't want to be a babyface either. Talents like being heels, or as Jim Cornette would say, "I'm a goddamn heel." So that's where that landed, and you just we're going to do this because Steve wants to try it, and we owe that to him. I agree wholeheartedly with that. We owed that to him, and we're going to play along with this ruse. Look, I knew the whole heel thing was over when we started doing those vignettes with Kurt Angle and Steve. They've made you laugh. They've made you chuckle. Why the hell how can you hate somebody and have this animosity if all they do is make you laugh and chuckle? That's not a villain. They tried to make it be a villain, but it wasn't.
you mentioned Kurt? Let's talk about Kurt Angle a little bit. So he came in 1999, became a massive star, and then by 2003 he's going to be in his first WrestleMania main event with Brock Lesnar. Everything's going fine, and then he's got a broken neck. He can't wrestle, but he does go through with the match at WrestleMania 19. How are you feeling about that? That he's going to wrestle through that anyway, even though he's in such bad shape.
Leery, scared. I didn't want us to hurt him. Seriously, it's no joke. Because some of these guys are like, the reason they're different than us is because they're bred that way. Their DNA says such. So you knew that no matter what was going on, you're going to get an Olympian effort out of Kurt, because that's what he knows. And we always had to be very careful in how we managed Kurt, because he thought he was unbreakable, invincible, and he wasn't. And during that time, without us paying enough attention, Kurt got too much pain meds. It was horrible. He'd walk around like he was a zombie. And that was just something that we had to fix. That wasn't easy to fix.
I did want. This is a random thing to ask you, but I wanted to ask you anyway. So Rock was going off to make movies. He'd come back and do a little stint here and there, and then at the end of 2004, Rock's contract runs out. It's not renewed. He's unhappy that nobody tried to renew it with him. What happened? How does Rock's contract run out? Is that a Vince
Well, we
mistake?
weren't surprised that it ran out. Nobody knew. We got it. So it's just the fact he didn't want to renew. And he had agents and he had a staff. And he just didn't want to renew his deal. So it wasn't that we didn't want to keep Rock, for God's sakes, or that we forgot his contract was coming up. We're not that inefficient. So there's where that laid.
Was there a reason that he wanted to stop wrestling, or was it just kind of he wanted to focus on movies?
He wanted to have freedom to do his movie projects. And as we all look back, that kind of worked. He's only the biggest star in Hollywood, more higher grosses, tickets sold, earnings. That was Rock. So he didn't want to, it wasn't that he didn't want to wrestle, but he wanted freedom from wrestling to do these crazy things, be the host on Saturday Night Live, to be not have to check in and check out, and where you're, trying to get a night off instead of going to, Chicago and working a house show type thing. So no, we wanted to keep him, and we knew when his contract was up, but Dwayne wanted to wrestle, wanted to act, and he was getting these amazing offers from a variety of entities. I mean, he quickly catapulted into that rarefied air of, he's going to make these major moves that's going to result in hit movies and that kind of thing.
I did want to ask you about what made you decide to step down from being the head of talent relations, and what did you think of John Laurinaitis as your
I
replacement?
didn't decide to step down. Vince wanted me to. I was getting too strong for my position, in my opinion. At least I'm covering my ass. I felt like I did a great job. Look at those guys that we signed. The interesting part about it is you got some of those cats that I signed and put them in a room. They're going to take most of the credit for their success. That's the wrestling business. The bottom line of it is that I facilitated for these guys an opportunity to become stars and to stand out and to make money where there had not been any money for them at that point. So but I wouldn't take that back for anything. It's a cool deal to me. So, but like I said earlier, if legacies mean anything, my legacy should be where I helped a lot of guys realize their dreams. And I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that. A lot of those guys are living the good life. They got 2 or 3 cars and 3 or 4 Rolexes and a couple of boob jobs.
So,